There's new options there. Okay. And there's a link to the agenda in the chat for everyone.
All right. I emailed Christopher and I said, we're here, where are you? And let's see if he shows up now. All right, so on the agenda, announcements. Anybody have any? Well, we could go around and make sure everybody that's here knows who everybody else is. I'll start. I'm George Williams. I'm the vice president of koha-US. I work at the Northeast Kansas Library System. And I don't know who's, well, I can point at people. John's up here on my screen, so go ahead, John.
I'm John Sturbins from the University of Michigan's Kresge Library Services, and I'm currently serving as the koha-US treasurer.
And I got Fred over here.
Fred King, MedStar Washington Hospital Center in Washington, D.C.
And then Megan.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Megan, and I work at the McKinney Public Library in Texas.
And over here I've got Jason.
I'm Jason Raub. I'm the Seek and Find coordinator at the Southeast Kansas Library System in Iola, Kansas, and I'm serving as secretary for koha-US.
And then we've got Brendan here.
I'm Brendan Ford from Manhattan College. I do interlibrary loan and systems.
And then I see Jack is next to Brendan on my screen.
Hi, I'm Jack Morash of the South Bay Historic Railroad Society in Santa Clara, and we have a great railroad library and museum.
Next to Jack is Todd.
Hi, everybody. I didn't realize that I'm muted. Todd Goatley with Bywater Solutions. I do fundraising. And I'm also part of the conference committee, and who knows what else is coming down the pike. So
over here I've got all the people with pictures seem to float to the top of my screen. So down here I've got Kelly doesn't have a picture up. So I don't know if she can jump back in and say hi.
Yeah, this is Kelly. I'm from Helm. It's a Boston Library or Massachusetts Library Consortium. And I basically am doing migrations now. So that's about it.
Next to Kelly is Candace Hope.
She introduced herself in the chat there.
Yep, she's in the chat. She says, hi, I'm Candace. I'm the circulation supervisor at Payson City Library in Payson, Utah. And fellow SK is next on my screen. But I'm not seeing anything from them. Lizette is over here. Lizette said earlier that she's got no audio. She's from Latah County Library District in Moscow, Idaho. Oh, and fellow SK says Karen Fellows, library support technician at Citrus Library in Florida.
Well, his teacher, I think, his teacher took.
Then we see Valerie posted something over here. Valerie's at the Leavenworth, Kansas Library. Eli posted Three Rivers, Florida, where they had, not only did they have a hurricane, but they're having terrible election problems. Fernando, I don't see anything over here from Fernando yet. And then down in the far right corner is Rachel. She posted Rachel from Boise at the Idaho at the State Archives. So that's everybody that I see on my screen so far. So anybody else have any announcements going on?
You know, we got,
Not exactly an announcement. Go ahead, John.
No, we upgraded to 1805, and everything's been going well. The end.
Fred was about to say something.
Yes, not exactly an announcement. I brought this up at the board meeting last week. I was recently at a library conference in Ocean City. Yes, there will be an adventure of the Avenging Chicken up soon. And the National Library of Medicine is looking for a new ILS. So I am trying to convince them that koha is the most wonderfulest thing around, though they have to come up with a discovery system as well. So if anyone has any ideas or wants to do a little lobbying, you know where to find me.
Over here in the chat box now, I see Fernando says he's Fernando Morales, Library Operation Manager for Banning Library District. I don't know what state that's in, but welcome, Fernando. For announcements, I saw we had, in my Facebook feed today, there was a post from Bywater. They have, if anybody did any of the Bywater training, they have a survey up to gauge people's reaction to the training. So if you haven't seen that yet, I just posted that in the chat box. So I'm sure that they would want feedback from anybody that has it. There was a koha community meeting on the IRC this morning that I forgot about, so I showed up late when it was almost over, but I read back through the transcript on the IRC logs, and there were some changes. They elected the people that are going to be on the 1905 release team, which I don't think there was anybody there that didn't want to be there. But somebody did mention there's a bug there that I just posted, 21813, and bug 21814. The release manager for 1811 will be released this month. And those two bugs, they're hoping somebody can sign off on them, and I probably won't have time to look at that today because I've got to go out of the office, and I'll be out all day tomorrow. But if anybody here, it looks like they would be easy bugs to sign off on. So if anybody wants to go to the sandboxes and sign off on those, that would give you an opportunity to participate in the community and get those bugs taken care of so that they'll be in hopefully patched by 1811. So I thought I'd put that out there for everybody to look at. So, and I think that probably does it for announcements. Unless somebody else wants to jump in and say something else. A couple more people have jumped in since then. I see Nate and Jesse showed up. So, hey, we don't know where Christopher is. So I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Maybe he's doing the moose tour of Coeur d'Alene.
Or more likely, there's something horrible going on at the library. There's a computer exploded, or there's stuff for him to do that's important. So who knows? I don't remember though who are the officer nominees. So hopefully Jason has that all written down so he can talk about that.
I do have a document which I can link that has everybody's biographies. We only have currently one nominee for each position. So vice president, we have Lizette. Treasurer, we have John to get reelected. And then for the member at large supported, we have Megan, who is with us, Megan Park. They each sent us a biography, a little blurb about what they hope to achieve. And my email is not going anywhere, but you can see that in the announcement email for today's meeting if you want to learn more about them. The plan is to close nominations at this meeting, and then we'll open up voting with a poll after the meeting. Since there's no opposing candidates, it'll just be a formality that everybody goes in and says, yeah, I want these people to be on the board. And then at next month's meeting, we will do the whole transfer of power type thing. So I think that's our plan.
We're going to play Hail to the Chief.
How about a flaming sword? Hand over to the
fickle finger of fate.
Yeah.
I knew John would get it.
Okay, I just found the link to the document that
thank you.
Jason was talking about, and I just posted that in the chat box. So there are the three candidates. I don't know if Christopher had set up a survey yet, or if you, I don't remember if Christopher was going to do that or if you were going to do that, Jason.
We didn't delegate it, but I'll get it set up and get it sent out.
Okay.
Just later this evening, probably.
Just a Google survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason, you're not running for anything, are you?
No, I can't stuff the
Good.
ballots for myself. Sorry.
As long as you're not running away.
So if nobody else wants to, let themselves be nominated at this time, I say we close the nominations and Jason can send this out to the members. The voting on the officer positions is only open to the paid members, members in good standing, and Jason's got the list of who those people are. So
Correct. So we'll get that.
So if you aren't a member yet, now's your time to become a member and go to the website and pay the $12.50 from now until December 31st, that you have the privilege of voting for one of these people that's guaranteed to be elected.
It's pretty good.
That's not much of a selling point there, is it?
Hey, George, just put the link in chat, will ya? Hurry, just put the link in chat.
So we'll go ahead and do that. Jason will get that sent out to everybody that's allowed to vote.
The membership list on the website is all up to date. Megan is our most recent member to join. She joined last week, so the list
Welcome.
that's there is the accurate list.
All right. Now I've lost my agenda link. There we go. Education initiative. Christopher was going to talk about that, and since he's not here, I'm trying to remember what all we discussed because I wasn't prepared to discuss it because somebody else is going to do it. We talked about
trying to start an education committee. I think the discussion was about the importance and you know, what the principle was that koha-US was actually founded on was, you know, to pull people together to be able to share information and offer educational insights.
where is, yes, it was part of the mission statement of koha-US is communicate, educate, and collaborate. So right now, I think we're collaborating like at this very moment. We're also communicating, so educating is the key to that. I don't know what Christopher had in mind for establishing yet another committee. But if anybody's interested in doing that, you can email info.koha-us.org, and that'll go to the president and the vice president, and just say that you're interested in being on the education committee. What we had talked about earlier in 2018 was trying to identify people that are able to teach specific skills in Koha and figure out a way to get, you know, possibly do something like this where there would be a webinar where you could come and learn about things that you don't know about. Like I could do something on Java and jQuery and how to modify your OPAC or your staff client with some of that stuff. Or, you know, John could do something about how to set up Koha. Or Fred too. Both of them are skilled at that. So that was kind of what we were thinking of, is finding ways to create educational resources that people could use. But I don't know exactly what Christopher wanted to talk about in that area, so.
I do have some notes for our minutes from last week's program.
Okay.
One thing, he had some desires for the committee. One thing was to focus on drawing people in. So the education initiative would allow us to kind of create appeal for more people to join. He wanted us to look at the website, maybe make it more appealing, maybe highlight an educational topic each month. On the page, we have a Learn From page. We've talked about kind of redesigning that so it's separated out into the different Koha modules, linking to people's blogs that are out there. So like George has a blog with some information on it. And then we'd also talked about conducting a survey or a poll to find out the needs of our organization, see what people want us to train on and educate on. And these are all things that the committee would be looking at if you're interested in joining the committee.
Cool.
I think this week you wanted to try to discuss people's interest in forming a committee and then trying to get an idea of what that would look like. I think that's what he wanted to the general meeting.
It's an agenda item that is likely to come up in next month's board meeting as well, since it's that was, I recall, the last thing we talked about, and we didn't quite get all the way through it. So if anyone here has a specific interest in that, next month's board meeting is probably a good place to go to learn more as we start to flesh this out.
And one of the other things I do remember about the discussion was a hope that we could get people that aren't also officers on this committee.
Well, that rules me out, but last week I had a cold and I didn't want to commit myself to anything, but I think I'm over my cold and I'm really interested in being on the committee, not as chair, but just to contribute what I can. Really interested in making Koha easier to use, especially for someone who can't afford the magnificent, wonderful, glorious assistance of people at Bywater.
Thanks, Fred. And so one of the things I think was interesting last week, and I know that Christopher has a passion for going forward, discussing more about developments and maybe items that need to be taken care of, bug items, things that are in the sandbox that need to be signed off and so forth. I know he feels very strongly about that. But one of the things I think that I felt came from last week's meeting is that that didn't take a back seat, but it was interesting to see the people that from the board meeting who actually came out and said, well, we do have a strong interest in education. And as you read from our mission statement, that tends to be more of one of our goals. And I don't think we want to lose the thought that there are things that we want to do development-wise with Koha, and we want the community to be engaged, especially our koha-US community. But I think putting our focus on education will definitely lend more towards what people are able to do with Koha as Koha continues with development, and also then bring forward some of the things that more legitimately may need to be taken care of in Koha. So that's kind of what I got out of last week's meeting.
Okay.
So both the development committee as well as an education committee, and you know, don't lose sight from either one of them.
All right, I think that kind of covers what I remember about it. And I'm glad Jason has good notes from that because he remembers a lot more than I do with his notes than I do with my brain. So next thing we've got on here are, let's see, there's a note over here from Valerie. So she's interested in being on that committee. Okay. The next thing on here are committee reports, conference committee. The conference committee for the 2019 conference hasn't met yet. I created I added everybody to the existing conferences at koha-US.org email address, and we'll have a committee meeting. I'll set that up sometime in December so we can get rolling on, hopefully in August, koha-US conference. The fundraising committee, we had a meeting and only 2 of us showed up, so I will schedule the next one of those and get an agenda out to all of those people. The finance committee, that's John.
This is a bigger quarterly report because it covers financial activity of the organization through the 3rd quarter of the fiscal year. The big news is that all of the income and expenses related to our contributions and coordination of KohaCon, that is all over with now and all cleared. We collected quite a good amount of money After the PayPal fees, all of that was transferred over to our PayPal account, from our PayPal account rather, to our checking account, a check written, and that check has been cashed. And you'll see that reflected in the bank statement, where it looks like we've got a lot of money for about 2 days, and then we're back down to our usual balance of around $2,300. The quarterly report indicates very little expenses. The only expenses we actually incurred during the third quarter were that related to the PayPal service charges, and even year to date, not really knowing what we were going to expect for service fees, our expenses have been incredibly low. Through 3 quarters, only $99 worth of expenses, but it is worth noting that that purposely excludes anything related to the conference, which was technically not considered part of our budget or reporting. In terms of other matters, a budget will be coming soon. It is time for the Finance Committee to craft a budget. We still won't have really a solid budget because we still don't have a full year's worth of activity, much less a year's worth of activity where we have taken on more of our financial responsibilities instead of relying very kindly on the generosity of individuals and the institutions that they work for. So that budget will be first available to the board for the December board meeting before being released for final comment and review by the general membership at the December general meeting. The Finance Committee is also continuing its work on putting together a financial or a business manager position. More on that as it comes, and now that it looks like I'll be re-elected treasurer, I don't have quite the fire under my butt that I had to get that done, but it will be done shortly, because the sooner we have that done and approved and incorporated into our bylaws, the better off I personally think the organization will be from a financial stability standpoint. And the newer members, those that joined Koha-Con or after, don't have their membership receipts yet. We're migrating over to a new mail merge system because the one we had, while it was wonderful, it wasn't really clear until after the 30 days that it was actually a 30-day trial. So we're moving towards something else now, and I really haven't had the time to fool around with that. But those receipts, as well as receipts for donations made to the organization, as well as donations made in support of Koha-Con, will be sent out easily by the end of the year in plenty of time for tax preparation season. Because as a 501c3, those donations will be tax deductible, as is your membership dues, for those that were not aware. And that's pretty much it from the Finance Committee.
Lizette says she has to leave, so see you later. I apparently was muted when I was talking a moment ago, so thanks, John. The last committee report there is Development Committee, which I just found out last week that I'm the chair of that committee. And so we haven't met in the last week, but once again, that'll be something that'll be scheduled for December. Especially now that we have some money to possibly do a development. So,
you know, George, I think looking at developments is great. I think if we could do some educational for people to get in the sandbox, I think what we really need is to get people to go in, exercise the sandbox, and do some sign-offs. I think that's going to be extremely helpful. When it comes to developments, maybe that's a good place for us to start first.
That's not a bad idea at all.
I think that's an excellent idea. And
let our money swell a little bit more and get in there and start showing people how to just handle the low end, low-hanging fruit stuff, give them confidence, give them courage to go in there and hit it and try to get that done. It'll help our community a lot.
For those that were not in Portland, Bywater, through Kyle Hall's efforts, has developed a new sandbox system, which looks, at least from my use of it to date, including my use at Koha-Con, seems to be a lot more flexible in terms of your ability to set up a system using the current branch of master. You can verify the problem in that, then you can separately apply a patch to that and confirm then that the patch works. You can also sign off using a button that is in the control panel for the sandboxes. And it's all really quite nice and effective, and it's a really nice tool to be able to have.
Maybe we can solicit Kyle and we can put something together one day next month or in January and see if we can get him to come in, or him or Nick, to do that thing again. And
that would be awesome, because even with what he introduced at Koha-Con, he made a few subtle changes as to how things work based on the feedback he got from the room as people were kicking the tires around for the first time. So I think that would be great.
If we even went to our partners list, partners at bywatersolutions.com, and we solicited through there, let's confirm with Kyle first and try to lock down a date, even if it's a couple dates, or even if we do a single date and record it, you know, so that people can go back and visit it. But I think if we can fill a Zoom room, get everybody looking, even if we had, you know, 30 to 50 people in there, and if everybody took the initiative to go out and just do one sign-off, could you imagine?
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Say again, Jess?
We're doing one in December for Bywater, so we can share that link.
Oh, excellent.
I'll send it out.
There you
You're
go.
doing a demo, video of the sandboxes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can we add that to our site as well, Jess, koha-US? I mean, not to drive people away from Bywater, but if they're using both and they see it,
Yeah.
Or for people like me that have an interest that aren't Bywater supported, but use the sandbox environment to do bug testing and signing offing.
Could you refresh my memory, such as it is it possible to set up a complete koha system in the sandbox without putting in a new bug fix?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to set up an experimental system, just as a demo, if they're interested in using koha, that's possible?
It is, but it doesn't quite give you the flexibility that you might want, because it comes with a whole bunch of assumptions and a set of data. And I don't know whether it's possible to turn off the data, or whether, and essentially giving you that blank system, or whether it comes prefabricated with libraries and bib records and patron records, because most people are using it for the purposes of signing off on patches or confirming problems in the current branch of master.
Maybe we could sponsor a sort of blank sandbox, so people would try setting up their own systems, and if they really like it, download the virtual machine. And
you mean set up our own demo?
Yeah.
Or at the very least, we could have a place on our website where we can link to some of the existing demos. There's a list on the wiki. There's Bywater has one, and then there's a couple of others. There's Catalyst has one. I think Calyx has one.
There's a number of different options there. And if we were to go that route, we could conceivably do something. TechSoup might have something that would provide us with this. Amazon Web Services, in their cheapest instance of what they call Lightsail, which is apparently their fully functional VM service, might support something like that as well. So if we do decide to go this route, in addition to what's already out there for sandbox testing, we've got possibilities.
And through TechSoup, we do have access. We could, there's a nominal fee to get a certain amount of Amazon Web Services credits each year. And when I told Robin how much was available, she said she could run all of the Kansas library websites that she manages for the state on a quarter of what is available through TechSoup. So there is a lot of Amazon Web Services available if we wanted to go that route. At the very least, though, to start off with, I put a note here to put a link to the existing sandboxes, and Jesse put a link down in the chat box for everybody. That's where the existing sandboxes are. But I'll put we can link from our website to the demos and the sandboxes, so that they're discoverable there. So
mean, the way I taught myself Koha was I got an old computer and I Vimar Kumal's live CD, and I kept reinstalling and reinstalling and reinstalling until I got it right. If I had something like a sandbox,
And that's what I did too, only I did it on Oracle's VMware on an old
okay.
machine at home.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do VMware at the time. Actually, I still don't.
Neither did I, so I had two things to learn at the same time.
It was like John over at Washoe. It was VMware and just spun it up continually until we finally got the pieces right.
Yeah. I also didn't have access to VMware. So.
Free download from Oracle.
Now you tell me. Well, this was maybe 6 years ago, too. So.
Just use VirtualBox.
Well, I will arrange a meeting of the development committee, and when we find out when Bywater makes Kyle's sandbox demo available, I'll make sure that it gets linked to our site, and the development committee can talk about maybe if we want to have Kyle do a demo for us, or if the video will be enough for us. So,
Jesse, when's that going to be in December?
I just went back to my emails. I'm still waiting for Kyle to confirm a date and time. So I pinged him again just as a reminder.
Right on.
But it's going to be town hall style, so people will be able to come in,
cool.
watch, ask questions. So, and we'll record it, of course, and make it available on YouTube so you can share. And we can fit up to 100 people, and we rarely hit 100 people. So, as many people can come.
I know we're the ones offering it. Do we want to help with marketing koha-US and kind of split the focus? Do we want to put some kind of a koha-US / Bywater stamp on this, or what are your thoughts, Nate?
I'm sorry, I was called away. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I was wondering with the sandbox, do you want to keep that all in the Bywater realm, or do we want to split that with koha-US so that people know that they can go for educational resources to koha-US as well as Bywater solutions? And so for that sandbox training, we want to split that and have something that identifies or present it as koha-US and Bywater solutions. Do you see an advantage to one or the other? Just keeping it wholly Bywater solutions if we want to, or splitting that?
I have no idea. That's
Okay.
something you got to talk to Brendan and Kyle about.
Okay.
well, the development team or the development committee will try to meet and come up with ideas of what we can do beyond just the structure that was talked about for how to handle development ideas. So the next thing on the agenda is open discussion bugs, and there's also open discussion breaking the Linux barrier. So why don't I just throw it open for that, because we were almost sort of doing that there when we got off track with the development committee. So are there any bugs that anybody has had to deal with, or anything that's been going on with the upgrade to 1805? I know Lizette left, but they have already upgraded to 1805. I don't know if anybody else here has already upgraded that's noticed any problems or experienced anything they weren't expecting.
I have some low-hanging fruit. Just for me this morning, I saw where somebody was having an issue with the self-checks not functioning. So there's a new permission for the self-checkout patron. And you need to go in, check the permissions, look down at the bottom, you'll see where you have to check a box for the self-check. So that patron, the self-check patron that's dedicated to self-checks needs to be selected, that checkbox, so that it functions. So
Okay.
just some low-hanging fruit.
Do you know, Todd, if that's the only permission you need now to operate the self-check, or if it needs to also have, like right now, to use self-check, the self-check user has to have circulation permissions, or does the self-check permission take care of all of that?
It moved from circulation to its own permission.
Okay.
So it moved.
Okay.
So it doesn't need anything else but that self-check permission, Jess, that's it?
I'll share my screen real quick.
Cool.
You're muted, Jess.
Sorry. It used to be right down here under the circulate permission. That's what George was saying, right here. And now it moved to its own down at the bottom. So now there's a self-check, and then there's two permissions, one for the self-check-in module and one for the self-checkout module.
Okay.
The other thing you need to remember in regards to self-checkout and self-check-in is the end of the URL. One says SCO and the other one says SKI. So one's going to be SCO, self-checkout. The other one's going to be self-check-in, SCI. I know that sounds crazy, but it's necessary.
I've been looking at 1805 on our test server, and I don't remember coming up with anything that I thought didn't work right or anything that I hadn't discovered any bugs on our test server. But like I said, you know, I'm sure if there are any bugs that are significant, I will discover them the day after we upgrade. That's when I will get a bunch of emails saying this doesn't work right, or this looks different, or whatnot.
George, if you're using UTF-8 collation, I'm going to put this in channel. There's been a change.
Yeah, that I was aware of.
Okay.
And I am using that, so I do have to figure out which reports are using that. For the reports that are using that, because of the other change in reports, that may no longer be necessary. If you have SQL, and let me see if I can find one. There's a way that if you're recycling parameters, if you use branches 3 different times in a report, there has always been a way to use some collation to use variables. So you have to say the variable. Yeah, it's complicated. I'm willing to bet that Christopher and I are the only ones using it.
I'm using it totally.
You're using it too?
Yeah.
Because it was something I learned from him.
Yeah, I did too. There was some blog post somewhere. It was great because you could not have to pick a library 3 times in a report. But
yeah, if you needed to set a branch variable 3 times, instead of having to set it 3 times, you could set it once. But it required the using the collation. And I know it will affect us, and apparently it'll affect Jason, it'll affect Christopher. I also know that it will affect Valnet because of the reports that I wrote when I was at Valnet. So I'll put this over in the chat box. If you have anything that looks like that in your SQL, well, that's one I already updated because that's from the test server. So if you have anything that looks like that second one, the collate has to change from UTF-8 to UTF-8 MB4. And so I've got like about 7 or 8 reports that need to be updated, and I'm guessing that there aren't a lot of other people that are going to have that problem. So I don't know, are anybody else having any issues, any bugs that need to be looked at? I did post earlier those 2 that the community is hoping people will sign off on, so that the patches can be included in 1811.
I've got something that, and I don't think it's a bug, but I'm not quite sure how it's designed to work. And it's a cataloging thing. It's in the advanced editor. And since there are probably very few people other than Fred that work in the cataloging module regularly, and much less alone use the advanced editor, it's something I might actually throw out to the broader list to find out what the history was behind the way the 008 field displays within the advanced editor because it doesn't really seem to make much sense. It always wants to default to books, even if the work form is not a book's work form. But yet, even after you save it, it doesn't actually change the record to books, which you wouldn't want because that would be disastrous. But it's not really clear why it is the way it is. And so there's got to be some level of history there that I'm just not familiar with because of the relative age of the advanced editor relative to when I started using the system. So I'm going to be throwing something out to the main list to see if I can get some sort of history because it's really weird and it turned me off. When I saw this at first, I said, oh, there's no way in hell we're using the advanced editor if this is what it's going to do in a database that is filled with serial records. And we just went back to the basic editor. Well, I've been working with the advanced editor more now in my development server, and the fields are there, but why they're displaying the book's work form with a type and bib level combination that clearly indicates this isn't a book is a mystery. So hopefully somebody will have a little bit more information on it.
I think it was Karen's mentioned in the chat that it's driving us crazy. So apparently she has the exact same problem. I've noticed the problem when I've used the advanced editor is that but what I've noticed is that if you save the record and then you switch back over to the regular editor, anything you change in the 008 in the advanced editor doesn't seem to make any difference in our system when you switch back to the regular editor. Is what I've noticed. It just has no impact at all.
Exactly, and you don't have that problem when you expand out the 008 for editing in the basic editor. So
yeah,
that's why I'm expecting somebody will have at least some sort of inkling. And if I get the answer I'm expecting to get, then I'm going to actually submit an enhancement request that a combination of type and bibliographic level be consulted when determining what to display for the fixed fields in the 008 so that it properly fills in something other than books if something is in fact not a book.
It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So making it work the way it's supposed to, I'm not sure I'd call that an enhancement. But I see what you're saying, yeah.
Well, I do a lot of cataloging, but I only do it in Notepad, so I'm afraid it can't be much help.
George, you see Candace's remark in the chat?
Oh, okay. Paying fines after the upgrade. Sometimes when you pay a fine and select pay amount, it will not let you pay the whole fine. Huh. That I haven't seen, and there is a community bug for that, huh? Oh, well, Jesse put in a link to a bug that describes exactly what you're describing, John. And then Candace put the bug in the chat there that says the incorrect rounding in total fines calculation must have to do with the bug that Candace is talking about. So I haven't experienced that yet because we haven't paid any fines yet because we've only got 1805 on our test servers. So I don't know how many people here have actually upgraded already to 1805. I know John has, and Brendan, Megan. So I haven't experienced. Oh, and Eli has too. He says, and Rachel. So that's one, I suppose. I know that there was a problem, not on 1805. I think it was 3.22 or 3.24. Let me look this up real quick. There was a problem with paste selected in an earlier version. And what I did, here it is. I wrote some jQuery to just remove the paste selected option until that bug was fixed. And I just put a link to that jQuery in there. My description of this back at the time was there is a bug in 322 causing a fee payment problem with the pay select button, and so this that I wrote just removes pay selected as an option until the bug could be fixed. So maybe that's even though I say that's it's no longer, it was for 3.22, it could also be used probably in 1805 if somebody wants to use that. Let me I can hop over here to my test server and see if it actually still works. So it doesn't. If it does work, it doesn't solve the problem, but at least it keeps it from. It's a workaround. So let me open a patron with the fine. Yeah, that jQuery still works. So if somebody wants to use it, there's the link to it. But that way you just don't have pay selected as an option. You're welcome. So is there anything else going on? Anybody?
I think we had something for us. Whenever we would try to add a child, it wouldn't automatically populate like the parent address with it. So now we've just been having to duplicate the record and edit it. I think that's the only like big issue we've had with anything. So.
Yeah, I just tried to add a child to the patron I had open for testing that pay selected. And it adds all of the information for us except the address. It put in the phone number.
Yeah, the phone number and the email were there, but everything else.
But none of the address, yeah, none of that stuff's there.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's the only real issue we've had.
Well, and I wonder if there's anything on Bugzilla about it.
Megan linked the bug for it, 21649.
Oh, okay, cool. I have to do some trainings in the next 2 weeks on 1805, so it's good to know some of these bugs. I'll be able to say to people, this is broken.
Or it's been fixed.
I hope that I can say it's been fixed, yeah. Those are good ones to know about, thanks. Thanks for everybody that upgrades before us. Are there any other?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say real quick, we did start a early adopters program. This is our first time rolling it out, where we have several libraries that are testing the release before we roll it out. So we're trying to nail some of those items that, you know, might happen that we can catch before we roll it out to everybody else. So that did help us this year. I think we have 11 libraries that are testing early for us. So we caught some of the things before it went out to everybody.
Yeah. I know Lizette was one of those, so it's too bad she had to leave early.
I know.
Well, Brendan was.
That uses Novelist Select. Only on the staff side, not on the OPAC. But that's fixed.
Cool. Well, this is like the quietest meeting I've ever been to. Usually we're still discussing bugs at a quarter till, and now we've got, we've run out of stuff to talk about, and there's like 4 minutes left. If nobody has anything else, I guess we can just end early for the first time ever.
There's new business. You forgot about the new business.
Oh, there's new business? Is that on the agenda too? I accidentally lost my agenda, so. Anybody have any new business?
There's the, the two items that are on there, both with regard to membership. With the creation of the supported member at large, we are going to start requesting that supported members include their support partner within the membership form. That's pretty much the only thing that we had thought of to date, although we are currently in the process, and by we I mean me, are in the process of updating the existing Google form to get it ready for membership, which is likely to open at the next general meeting if what was discussed at last week's board meeting actually holds true. And that's a good way to segue into the 2018-2019 membership transition. The current plan, as discussed at the most recent board meeting, is to open up 2019 membership at the general meeting. The PayPal links have already been created. I'm in the process, like I said, of updating the form. One thing I commented on last week at the board meeting is that there was no way to basically force Google Forms into a decision tree, a yes or no type thing. Well, it turns out there is a way to do that now. It's just not very visible, but there is a way to do that. And so what I'm doing is updating the membership form to basically ask if you are already a member. And if you are, and you can confirm that your information hasn't changed, you won't have to re-enter anything. And the information that you have in your 2018 membership will continue on with your 2019 membership. 2018 memberships expire at the end of 2018 on December 31st, and 2019 memberships will go into effect on January 1st. And again, these are the current plans, and we'll have more information about that at the next board meeting with the goal to roll it out at general.
Cool. I don't actually see any new business on my copy of the agenda, so thanks for having that, John.
I completely didn't get that on the general meeting agenda. It was just on the board meeting agenda. I slipped my mind.
Oh.
Sorry.
If I can interject, John, I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at that email I sent you for Lyricist with the Catamount Fund, but anybody else who might be a part of the Lyricist group, they support FOSS, and it's a 501c3 that has a number of different university and public library members, and they usually dole out $150,000, $200,000 a year. It's usually piecemeal. It's $15,000 to $20,000, $25,000. So they try to give out at least a handful of awards. And if anybody is a part of that, if you want to revisit and take a look and see if there's an opportunity in there that that you feel comfortable with maybe in pursuing, even if we all come together and think about how to put the grant information together and submit would be great. I think if we had, everybody that was a member, and I think we've got, I think we identified maybe 15 or 20 that were in their list. And if everybody took action and did something about that, and we were able to come back with one or two, that's pretty good for us to be able to take forward for developments or education purposes or whatever.
Yeah, I have not had an opportunity to more thoroughly explore the message that you sent me, Todd. But I hope to do that prior to the end of the month.
Thank you.
All right, well, now it's 11:30. We found a way to kill those last 4 minutes.
And I didn't
thanks
even have to read a poem.
All right, meeting adjourned.
So our next meeting, our next board meeting is December 5th, and our next general meeting will be December 12th. Just throw that out there.
And we'll have the link for the form to vote.
Out later today.
And the election will be over at the next meeting. We'll be able to announce who of those 3 people that were nominated each for one position. We'll be able to tell, if we need to do a Florida-style recount or whatnot.
I'll be looking for hanging chads.
Yeah. Damn it! You stole my hanging chads.
Hey, if somebody in the general meeting here has something that they'd like to have put on next month's meeting, Jason, what's the email address that they would send that to you so you could add that to the agenda?
Usually I request agenda items at secretary@koha-US.org, but you could also send it to officers@koha-US.org or info@koha-US.org. Any of those will get to the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think the election's going to be rigged. I think you have.
I think it kind of already is, isn't it? I think it's rigged in favor of the 3 people who let themselves be nominated.
Actually, that's how I got to be the treasurer of my library school alumni group for a year. A friend said it was a self-perpetuating oligarchy with a Soviet-style ballot.
If I see the chicken in as vice president, I'm definitely going to know it's.
All right, well, on that happy note, I'll see you all next month.
So long.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.